Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another photo mishmash. This one being broadcast live December 4th, 2018. And as usual, or unusually, I'm joined in studio by my good friend Steve Scourge. Hi, Steve. How you doing?
Did you press start? Are we broadcasting?
Yeah.
I can't hear anything. Are you sure?
Steve, I know I'm a frugal guy. I keep the heat down a little low, but why are you dressed so ridiculous?
We're going to Alaska, baby.
We're going to Alaska.
Woo!
Is the fish coming?
No, this guy's not coming. He's got eye issues that we need to address. So, oh,
yeah.
Here we are. Here we are. Heading off to Alaska tomorrow. We can't wait, as you can tell. And just as exciting. It's nice to be here with you. Nice to be doing the show live. And since we are live together, we've got our cocktails with us, just like last time.
Tradition to drink a little.
Cheers.
What are you drinking, Steve?
This is Basil Hayden whiskey on the rocks.
Mm-hmm. I'm opting for something a little lighter, an Alaskan Amber Pale Ale. So just, at the grocery store this morning and browsing the beer aisle and said, well, that seems appropriate.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there we are.
And we got this little dude with us. Hi, Archie.
Archer loves Steve, so he's down here. Plus, Chris isn't home right now, which means he's lonely. So he's down here with us.
Okay, I'm going to shed some of this stuff because this is just getting a little ridiculous.
I'm actually really comfortable right now.
Are you?
I am.
I went overboard with the scarf and the beanie and the hood and whew.
Well, Steve, our viewing numbers are going up as you're stripping layers, so keep it going because we'll do anything for a view here.
I don't know about that. A couple more layers and everybody's going to be signing off.
If you're tuning in for the first time, you might not have any idea what this show is about, but it's a weekly show where usually Steve and I get together and chit-chat about the week's photo news, talk about photography, tips and tricks, to spend a little time working on your photos in Lightroom and Photoshop, and just generally have a good time with all things photo.
It is a lot more fun to do this at the same desk together.
Yeah, we're quite cozy here. But for those of you who have followed for a while, know that we're both instructors with McKay Photography Academy. We joke around that we're each other's work wives. We spend a lot of time rooming together. Sometimes in European hotels, that we're sleeping even closer than this.
Yeah.
And I realize I need to turn the heater off. Otherwise, it's going to get noisy down here in a minute. So let me just do that real quick.
Okay.
I can do that right here from the phone because we're fancy like that.
And then, you can?
Yeah. And then I will, I'll take my layers off and we'll start chit-chatting about the week's news and some things that are, important to share.
There we go. How's my hair look?
It's good. It's still good. I know. Okay. It's important. Yeah. All right. I'm going to put Archie down. I'm going to shed a layer or two as well. Temperatures in Alaska don't look like they're going to be that bad.
No, we've been up there a number of times now. This is, I think, the third year for me getting up there, and probably for you as well. I think the first time that you went was the first time I went.
Yeah, I think so.
So third time, I don't know, because we've had some trips where we've gone back, for Aurora activity and stuff in between our annual December trip. But this is our annual December trip. It's a little shorter than what we've done in the...
Sorry, I just felt like I was hanging off the screen a little.
Oh, okay. Is that better?
Yeah. The studio's not really meant for two.
I said it was nice to be doing the show at the same table. I may be taking those words back. No, anyway, yeah, we're going to Alaska. We're going to shoot the Northern Lights. We are hoping and praying that the Aurora activity is going crazy and there's no clouds. And so we'll see what happens. But yeah, the weather looks relatively mild because we've been up there before when it's been 30, 40 degrees below. And there was one time, I think a lot of people were inside eating or something. And you and I were out there. You were doing a time lapse and I was just shooting away. I think we were out there for an hour and a half or something straight in 40 below and literally jogging in place to try and... Yeah,
there's no amount of layers you can wear at that temperature where you'll stay comfortable. It was really, the jogging in place was really to kind of like stave off total loss of feeling in the extremities.
Yeah.
But it's I really enjoy photography. I'm quite passionate about it, as you are as well. And I'll go through some pain if things are happening and it's exciting. So yeah.
I'll lose a toe or two, just not the big toe, I hope.
Yeah. Got extras.
Yeah. I got
Definitely
10 of
extras.
them. I need 10 for.
Yeah. Yeah. We haven't welcomed our chat room yet. Thank you so much for jumping in and joining us live on this kind of special night, because tomorrow is our typical time for the show. But we will be in the air flying to Alaska. So thanks for joining with us. And chat room, you're sharp today. Caleb has noticed that there is a Nikon Z6 on the table. I know,
Caleb.
I know we got to hold it all the way back here for focus. I should work on that focus so that things up front in front of us are in focus as well.
It's kind of like sharper back here.
Yeah, it's a little.
Are we soft?
Well,
it's probably good.
It's all going to YouTube, so
shadow going on here. So let's keep that soft.
It's the beauty. It's the beauty. Yeah. So this is the Nikon Z6. I am very excited to take it with me up north. I just published. Let's dive into the beginning part of the show, which is kind of a week in review. What are some things that have gone out on this channel or through the Pen Photo Enthusiast Network that you may have missed, and gives us a chance to chit chat a little bit more about them? Not a whole lot. My review of the EOS R, my final review, kind of wrap up thoughts, went live today, and I'll sum it up for you. I want you to go watch it, especially go watch it and give it a quick thumbs up, because there's a lot of people that thumb it down because my opinion is different than theirs. But
I think a lot of times people are so brand loyal, that if you come out with a negative review about a brand that they love or they use, they'll automatically just click a thumbs down, which is really unfair to you guys. But it's such as life on the internet, I suppose. Yeah,
I know. But when I have good friends out there that will go thumb things up for me, that's nice. But generally, my thoughts on the EOS R is there's nothing really compelling about it that would make me, as a camera reviewer and recommender to so many people, say this is an awesome camera, go get it. However, I feel quite a bit differently about the Z6. I think it comes in at a really nice value. It's got a fantastic sensor in there. You put it in your hands, and what did you say?
I think my first comment was Pam Case is going to love this, or Pam Cakes, as we affectionately refer to as. Hopefully she's watching.
I think
I don't know if she's in the chat room, but I know that she's ordered this camera.
I think it's arrived already for her. Pam, let us know.
Yeah, let us know if you got it, Pam. You will love this camera. I put this in my hands, and one of the quirky things was you actually had to extend the lens to get it started. But I love this. It feels great in the hand, and I put it in my hands with, what else do we have here? A7 III, which also is an outstanding camera. And I think probably even a little bit better value if you're not brand loyal and aren't invested in certain lenses. But this one just feels so much better in the hands, at least for me, but I do have big hands. So, I mean, this just feels really nice. And it kind of plays with a simplicity like a Canon would. The live view is outstanding. You get the histogram right up there. You got the exposure simulation. It's really easy to use. Touch screen, super responsive. I turned to Toby and I said, I would buy this camera. I would buy this camera. If I was switching over to Nikon, or if I was a Nikon shooter, I probably wouldn't hesitate. This thing feels great in the hand. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to have up there in Alaska.
Yep. Yeah. I think it's great. And again, the EOS R isn't a bad camera, but it just isn't exciting. And Canon hasn't been really, we talked about this earlier today, Canon hasn't really been exciting in a while. That doesn't mean bad. It just, we like that new shiny thing that's like, whoa, blow us out of the water. Very cool. Look at this feature, that feature. No one else has done that. Look how good that sensor is. And we just haven't been able to say those things about the Canon for a while.
Yeah, and I think one of the problems, Canon almost did this to themselves, because they came out with the 5D Mark II years ago, and that just blew people out of the water. It was all of a sudden you had this full frame DSLR professional grade, and would do video, and it really blew people's socks off. And then since then, the Mark III was actually a nice step up from that. The Mark IV was a little bit smaller of an upgrade, but I've had the Mark III and the Mark IV, and actually I got to say that upgrade was a really nice upgrade. So it kind of gets a bad rap because it blew people's socks off early on in the game, but now we look for that. We do that with Apple products too. You know, we complain about the Apple products that come out, but the reality is, in my opinion, they're still really great products, and maybe they're just not as earth-shattering. I think that the Canon system, the EOS R system, over time is going to be outstanding. I think they're going to end up investing a lot of time and research and development into that, and the glass. And I think over time, you're going to end up with a system that people just absolutely love, the way they like the DSLRs. It's just that Sony's been so far ahead of the game. But you know, with Nikon and Canon coming to the table with similar models at the same time, I think Nikon, you know, just did a better job right out of the gates with their first full frame mirrorless. Yeah,
that's true. And it's just curious. This is a question. We don't need to answer this. Chat room, you could throw some answers out if you wanted to, but has Canon set themselves back enough that it's going to be a significant slump for a couple of years, or are they going to recover fairly quickly from this? And I don't even wonder if saying recover from this, because it's not a dud, but it isn't exciting people like wildfire. It didn't even get a DP review medal, which, you know, they give their gold and silver awards. A major camera hasn't been reviewed by DP review and not gotten one of those in quite some time. I think it came in at a 79%. So yeah, 79%, still solid. But you know, will it be a year? Will it be a couple years before people are like, Canon's killing it again? I'm just curious.
Yeah, we'll see.
Other stuff that happened in the last week, Steve, I want you to talk a little bit about your Tuesday tip, why I try to nail focus a little bit more.
Okay. So, yeah, if you guys probably got it this morning, if you've been on top of your emails from us at Penn or the Photo Enthusiast Network, for those who don't know what Penn is. And my Tuesday tip was a little different this week. This week, I did 2 short videos embedded in the Tuesday tip, which we usually don't do. In fact, we talk as a staff. We like to divvy up, okay, who's on video tutorial this week, and then who's doing the Tuesday tip. And we do the monthly wrap-ups and the competition image reviews and all that other stuff. But I started to type up a Tuesday tip on exporting photos, preparing photos, exporting photos for Facebook, optimum settings for Facebook, as well as Instagram, and then how to set up those presets in Lightroom. And it was just painstaking to try and type that up. So I just went ahead and hit screen record and recorded a couple videos. They're about 5 minutes each, something like that. But it's a 2-part series. One's Facebook, one's Instagram. And anyway, check that out when you get a chance, I think.
Now I can tell that you need to shave.
Yeah. Well, I did this on purpose because we're going up to the cold, but I didn't let it go long enough. I had to shave for Thanksgiving and all of that with family around, but I can go up there looking like a Yeti and try and stay warm.
Yep. Well, thanks for bearing with me as I dialed focus in a little bit more. You know, we talk a lot about Lightroom. We teach Lightroom on our photo workshops. I love the amount of work it will do for you. And one of those things is dial in those presets, where after you get one set up or several set up, you just click, and your image ends up where you want, the size you want, the compression you want. Things of that sort, which real quick brings up, you know, just a reminder, if you want a new website, 2019 is less than 3 weeks away now, or about 3 weeks away. If you want to start 2019 off on the right foot being having a beautiful website where you display your work that is not compressed all nasty and is not surrounded by other people's pictures, it's just yours, you should consider Squarespace. Go to squarespace.com/photorectv to save 10% off your first order.
Yep.
The other thing that talk just briefly about is the November image review and critique. You guys just finished that up.
Yeah, this month was really difficult. I know we say that every single month, but the cool thing is we've been doing this for almost a year now. We rolled the image critiques or the competition out a couple months after we got Penn off the ground. But it's been almost a year now. And this month, you can just see people's progression. And we got a lot of the same people that keep submitting, but we get some new names in there, and they're coming in with just these amazing images. So if you get a chance, watch that. Even if we say this every single month, even if you didn't enter an image, or your image isn't shown as one of the top 5, it's still, we use it as a platform to teach you some things. We go through and talk about some of the changes that we might make to a photograph just to bring its potential up a little bit. And really, we do this to help you prepare for competition if that's the route you want to go. But at the end of the day, we just want you to become better photographers. And for me personally, I've become a much better photographer as I prepared and entered competition. It's not for everybody. We get that. But even if you didn't submit, check it out. I think you'll learn something. And we had a good time this go around. We were kind of laughing a lot. And I mean, we tend to do that a lot off camera, but it was a fun one to do. And the images were absolutely beautiful. So congratulations to Brian Scanlon. I don't know if he's in the chat room tonight, but he had the top image, and I want you to go and watch that and see what he submitted. I won't give you too many spoilers about it.
Yeah, I saw his post. Very, very humbly said, "I am, he's just really happy to have won the award, but can't believe he won it, seeing the other images in the group." So that's cool. And you might not feel like you're ready for that level, or you just might be nervous about putting your work out there in front of other people. You have other ways to get your images looked at and reviewed. If you're part of the Photo Enthusiast Network, you can just post it on Facebook and say, "Hey, give me some feedback on this." We see that often. And it is just a great way to get a second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, eighth, ninth, 10th, 11th set of eyeballs on your work to kind of tell you whether or not you've maybe pushed that saturation slider a little too far, or crushed those blacks a little bit too much, or if you don't even know what I'm talking about, just to give you some kind of sense of what it is. I truly believe we have one of the best photographic communities on the internet. And I'm wearing the shirt. Got to lean over here so you can see it. Just want to remind you that the price is increasing at the beginning of 2019. But if you buy in now, 3 weeks left, countdown is running. You buy in at that $9.99 a month, or if you pay for a year, you pay just $8 a month. That's for as long as you're a member in good standing. We keep that. That's right. That initial special offer available to you. We really, yeah. Sorry, we really appreciate those people that have jumped in and helped this community grow and become the awesome place it is. And that's one of the ways that we can thank you. And then, of course, we got a forum. If you're not on Facebook, we got a forum for you as well. And you can post there, and you get feedback from photographers. And it's just awesome. I'm really happy to be part of it. It's going well. Yep. I brought Archer in for the show here. Yeah. He's puked up because he hears Chris is home. So he's like, well, maybe I'll leave these. He might be bailing me in a second. He might regret this. Yeah. I wish we'd got a googly eye for him. And then a final piece of content that I want to mention real quick that went out on the Photo Enthusiast Network this week is transferring pictures and folders of pictures around within Lightroom. We joke about this a lot on our workshops, that once you start using Lightroom, you're marrying it. You're entering into a serious relationship, and you better do everything up front. Don't go doing stuff behind the scenes. Don't go doing stuff outside of Lightroom. Then you got to go to counseling. Yeah. It's an absolute mess. Yeah, Lightroom really is not very forgiving. It's not forgiving at all, actually. Well, no, I'd say it is with counseling, if we want to take this analogy too far. But if you can avoid counseling, just keep that line of communication open in Lightroom. And now some people are like, what are they talking about? We've basically really gone off on a rabbit trail here. This video just shows you how to move photos and folders of photos around in Lightroom, keeping everything happy and staying away from the dreaded exclamation points. And it's short and sweet, and it's about 5 minutes long, which is a goal of mine, to get many more of those kind of short, sweet videos out. We got the long form hour chunk videos, 7 or 8 of them, that tell you all about Lightroom, but now really targeting specific things that you might want to learn. So that's it. And I think that's all. We now move into the part of the show that we call Lightroom Tips and Tricks. We do a little critiquing here too, but the goal of our this part of the show is to take your submitted images. Photo Enthusiast Network members get to submit these images and get some suggestions in Lightroom for how to improve those.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just going to realize that I didn't close enough windows. So I got to share the screen and dive.
We're going to do this on the
Lightroom,
the big screen there.
Yeah, okay. We'll do it over
so
here.
You'll be driving the ship.
Yeah. Well, anytime anything goes wrong, I'll pretend it's like you do it. Steve, you did it wrong again.
Son of a.
Yeah. So we've got 3 images that we want to look at tonight. And first up, first time submitter, Cameron Ware. Cameron, thank you so much for sending some photos in. This is a pretty spot.
I know. I actually, I'll take a little bit of credit, not for the picture, but I was chatting with Cameron on our Facebook site, and I said, please upload this to our live show tonight, because I'd love to just kind of work through it. She was asking for some feedback on it, and I think it's just an absolutely beautiful image. And I'll tell you some of the things. I mean, it's obviously stunning. It was a stunning scene, and kudos to you, Cameron, for being out there with your camera. She mentioned, I think in a later post in our conversation, that she wanted to do some star photography, but those didn't show up, and they typically don't after you get a nice dramatic sunset with clouds like this. To get them all to leave and have clear starry skies is kind of rare. It does happen, but she was out there at sunset getting this shot, and it's absolutely stunning. And what I love about it too is just how pleasing it is to the eye. You have this C curve, as we call it, where you look at the foreground and it kind of goes around, and then you've got the leading line taking you right out to the brightest spot of the photograph where the sun is going down. Gorgeous color and clouds and stuff around it. It's just a really nice shot. So Cameron, thanks for submitting that. A couple of suggestions that I had for her was, I noticed the vignetting, especially in the top corners, was pretty heavy. So I think, enabling some lens correction there helps to take that away. And all Toby's done here in Lightroom is just gone down to the lens correction drop down and enabled profile correction. It automatically sees that she shot this with a Rokinon lens and does a lens correction. And it does a really, really nice job. I do that on almost 100% of my photos that I bring into Lightroom. So that helps with the vignetting. I was saying maybe pop up the vibrance and the contrast just a little bit, just to make it pop a little bit more. She gave us a D&G RAW, right?
It is a D&G.
Yeah, so we see the changes that she made, and the highlights are actually, they're brought down.
Yep. Now I'll say this: saturation, she's got up to 18. I'm reluctant to push it much further globally, but I would go down to the color panel, which if you watch the show a couple of times, you've seen me do this more than once, because I really like being able to individually tweak these colors. Because what happens in my opinion, when you start to push the saturation, you start to see some colors on these rocks that don't feel as natural to me.
Yeah.
It's not bad, but the orange on the rock is just starting to get a little bit pushed, and the color in the noise of the kind of faded area or distant hazy area is also starting to become more apparent. So I worry about that a little bit. Yeah. So come down here to the color, and I just grab these and just move them back and forth and just watch what happens. And see.
Reds and blues you have to be very, very careful of, because the reds will start to show up, and you can see almost this banding that occurs where the red meets the orange meets the yellow. And then the blues, I might tone them down a little bit. I do like the orange and yellows being up just a little bit on there. I might take the blues down just a bit. I make it look a little bit more realistic, but not.
I mean, this is this is what I do just to see.
You can see how
what colors are getting affected.
In the shadows too.
Yep.
So and as Toby mentioned, once you start really brightening up those shadows or increasing one of the colors that's found heavily in shadows, you start to see the noise and stuff that's in there. So you want to stay away from.
Do want to be careful about that.
I might even go in there, and this could be one where you could do like a graduated filter on the sky and increase the vibrance and saturation, but then not do it on the rock. You want to leave that more natural and subdued.
Yes. So just real quick to show what, following what Steve's saying here, I use the graduated filter, which allows you to selectively edit an area that you drag this over. Right now, it's not doing anything because the effect, which looks like the basic panel, is all zeroed out. But if we just kind of come up here to saturation, increase that, and maybe let's warm it a little bit too and see what happens.
Oh, see, look at the pink that's up there in the top of the sky. That's
and so
beautiful.
You can see now as I drag that down, and that kind of paints over that area. And of course, it's not affecting anything down here because the gradient isn't down there. And so that is a good suggestion, Steve, and pretty powerful.
Yeah, leaving the rocks alone. The other thing that I mentioned to her, I know we've got a couple other images to get to, but I would pull this into Photoshop and I would clip out. I don't know if we want to show Cameron just how to do this.
Oh, Cameron's a he. I'm sorry, Cameron. Did I assume that?
Oh, I did too. My apologies.
I don't know why. Cameron is very much a boy's name sometimes.
Well, it's pretty. I was going to say ambidextrous, but that's right and left. Anyway. I've had a little bit of whiskey tonight, so forgive us.
What did you say we should do now?
Pull this into Photoshop. And there's just a couple things that I would definitely recommend taking out of the photograph. We've talked about this from time to time on the show, as well as image reviews and stuff. You want to be very intentional about what your subject matter is. And when there's things in the photograph that visually take you away from the story that's being told or the actual subject here, which is the leading lines of the valley going out to this gorgeous sunset, that really bright green treetop or bush down there, along with the one to the left of it, I would kind of work on clipping that out of there. And yeah, lasso tool with content aware fill.
So just because it's my background layer, I can just hit delete. This box pops up. I hit OK. This is probably going to do an okay job. Yeah, definitely not good enough. But I think, you know, I agree with Steve. That should be removed. And this one over here, because you shot
that white spot over there on the right side.
This guy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would just look for this stuff. Also, it would take a little bit of work, but in that lower left corner, you've got that really kind of odd, almost a turquoise shade to those branches that are in there. And that could be a result of a little heavy on the saturation.
Yeah.
But I would kind of take those out because they're just kind of an eye stopper. Your eye tends to start right there. If it doesn't get a chance to really move over to where that C curve starts, it'll start in that lower left corner. That's a pretty powerful visual spot. And you want to just be very careful about what's in that corner. So, you know, I would actually work on clipping that out. Similar process to what Toby just did with content aware fill, but I tend to work in really tight and just a little bit at a time. It'll take you a little while, but on pictures, especially if you're going to blow it up and put it in your house, you want to take some time to get it right, because anything that you see here on the computer is one thing, but once you blow it up into a, you know, 40-inch metal print, you'll really notice certain areas that just kind of take your attention away.
Yeah, that's a great tip. You know, I was just real quick kind of doing that content aware fill, but you do want to work in much closer when it really matters. Just kind of give you a quick tip. Yeah, this looks good. We can return to Lightroom with just a quick close and say, yes, save. And we'll come back into Lightroom and we'll have two versions of it now. Hopefully this is more interesting to you all than it is to the dog who's fallen asleep on Steve's arm. Maybe you can hear a little bit of snoring. You can do more edits once you're back in Lightroom, but typically I do all of my edits that I'm going to in Lightroom, move to Photoshop, do the content aware fill, a little bit of finishing touches, which might be sharpening sometimes, and then finish up and come back to Lightroom. One other thing that I'd like to try in here is I'm going to get a radial gradient and just kind of throw it over this valley in this area and just do a little bit more noise reduction and maybe decrease the saturation a little bit.
I would maybe even darken it down a bit, take your shadows down.
Yeah.
Just to make it look a little bit more.
Yeah, there we go. So we're just kind of, we're just evening it out a little bit. We can feel like the valley down there is a little bit more in shadow and just kind of battle back against some of that noise that's going on there. So that was just the radial gradient, drop the saturation, which kind of beats back against some of the noise and shadows. Yeah. Nice, Cameron. Thank you so much.
Thanks for submitting that.
It's beautiful, beautiful spot. I bet it was a beautiful spot to watch the sunset. I'd also work on taking that little bit of white out there. That keeps catching my eye. But easy to do.
Yeah, and we've got Cameron, I don't know if you're new to pen or we just happened to notice you on the site today, but we do have a lot of tutorials that talk about just kind of finishing an image for print, where you take out a lot of those little hot spots and stuff that don't look like much, but once you start to take those out and you do a before and after, you really start to notice that. I did a tutorial on that recently. So anyway, there's a lot of material that we do have on kind of some of the fine tuning of these images, getting them ready for print.
Yep.
So this is Kevin, right?
Yeah, I just want to say real quick, Cameron says, thanks. He also often forgets to do the lens corrections. Well, Cameron, as a pen member now, you have access to my presets. I need to update those and share them out again. But there is a base import preset that I recommend everybody use as they import into Lightroom. It'll automatically do the lens correction for you. It'll look at the metadata of your file and figure out what lens you used and then apply that. So it's always good to use.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So now we're on to Kevin Walks. I know he visited a Christmas tree farm recently and he had this shot. And I'll tell you right now, none of you are seeing it, but Kevin, I much prefer the shot you posted today where you had that central road going straight down the middle of these trees. It was a very nice, clean, symmetrical shot. But let's talk about this for a minute.
So I didn't see the one that you're referencing from today. I'll have to go back and take a look at that. One of the things that is, for me, I really love seeing where the trees meet the sky, because the drama of the clouds is really cool looking. It's kind of eerie, and it's got, I don't know, it was just shot at a really nice time of day. The lighting is great, Kev. So what's distracting me is all the dirt, all the brightness of the browns that are kind of intermixed with the greens and stuff. So I would just go to a really wide crop probably, and I'd come up from the bottom. And yeah, and I would just, and then I would probably go into Photoshop and I'd just do some content aware fill, or I'd do some cloning or something in there in those lighter areas, just to kind of fill them in, make them non-existent as much as possible. As they are right now, your eye just constantly goes from these cool treetops with the sky as a backdrop to, at least my eye keeps jutting down and looking at these bare spots.
Yeah.
So I would just fill those in. And, you know, I like the way he processed this, though. I like the way the clouds look and everything. It looks great.
I think you did a nice job. A couple of things. One, it looks like snowing or raining. We got little streaks here, which is kind of neat.
Oh, yeah, I didn't notice that.
I see a couple of them here, and then I see a couple of them in the sky as well. And it's really, you've chosen, what did you, shutter speed of 1/500th of a second. So I think it's really...
what were the other settings?
F4, 1/500th of a second.
Okay.
11 millimeters, very wide lens.
Yeah.
So when it's raining, you do want to be really mindful about that shutter speed to think about what kind of effect or look you want to give. And I think the streaks are good. I would have liked a little bit more depth of field here and really start to, I agree with Steve. I like the kind of drama of the trees jutting up into the sky, but you can tell that these over here are a little out of focus.
Yeah.
And that's the F4.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
And the other thing that I'm noticing, I wonder, Kevin, if you did a gradient down in the sky, because the tops of the trees look a little dark to me. And they look like you hit them with a gradient that really made the sky nice and dramatic, which I appreciate. But then you also hit the tree and made them look a little darker than they should up there.
Yeah.
It could just be an optical illusion. But let me show real quick. I've shown this a couple times now, but it's so valuable that I want to show it again, is the new option. If you bring down, you know, a couple of things you can do. One, you can bring it down. I'm in the gradient tool. I go over to the brush. I get erase, auto mask on, and I can pretty easily, or let's do something drastic with this. Let's make the sky really yellow. So it's making the tops of the trees yellow, of course. Well, I can go in and I can erase it from the trees by just simply erasing. But we also have this ability now of the range mask and luminance here. So now you have the ability to say, really only affect the brighter portions of the image. This range goes from 0, black, to 100, white. So a brightness level. So I can, not color, I should say, you know, pure dark to pure bright. Is that Pure bright. Is that a
Pure
technical term?
Pure white.
So if you bring it up, it should really only affect the brighter portions, and we can click show mask. And look at this, the red, it shows you where it's affecting. So now I know actually I can bring it down a good bit more. Look at that. It's avoiding those tops of the trees. So I have to find that sweet spot. And so instantly with this incredibly powerful tool, Adobe, pay me money for being so excited about your tool, that you can just mask it off the trees by saying control to the brightness. You could also go with color and say do only in that kind of gray blue area and avoid the green as well.
You know, now that you did that,
yeah,
I kind of think this might look good as a black and white,
or
even better, an infrared, because that would, you know, I mean, now you're not really, now you don't even notice the brown that's down in there, the bare spots, because now you're just talking about contrast. You're talking about shades of black, white, and gray, basically. And this could be really cool as a black and white.
Yep. I think it works well. What still bothers me a little bit, though, is, Kevin, you really got to watch that aperture, f4, and the softness over there. I want all of these trees to be, I want to look like I grab them and they're ouchy.
Yeah, and if you're at 500th of a second hand holding, you've got a lot of room to work with. You can crank that up to f8, no problem, probably.
Yeah.
And still be at 2/50th of a second.
Yep. Yep. Nice. Thanks for submitting, Kevin.
Yeah.
Pam.
Oh, hey, that looks familiar. Smokies.
Oh, I was going to be excited for a minute. I wondered if it was with the Nikon Z6, but she didn't have that yet at the Smokies.
No, she didn't have that at the Smokies yet.
Yeah, okay.
I like what she did here, though. Okay, so before we get into some of the tips, one issue that I see that fence post on the left side, how it's just touching the edge of the frame. This is, I know Toby talks a lot about this when we're teaching classes on our tours, and I like to talk about it too, is just leaving some space. I don't know if she had the space available, if she cropped it in that way. If you did, Pam, I would just expand that to leave a little cushion outside of that so it's not touching the edge of the frame. If you didn't, I would actually crop it in a little tighter and just get rid of that post. It's it's cool having it there, but it's such a visual element right where your eye starts. And I want to travel throughout the photograph, but I keep coming back to how that's just touching the edge of the frame.
I like this image, Pam. And I think this is a great image. This really illustrates this issue of, yes, this post should have a little breathing room, but then you might say, well, she cut this tree in half. But cutting this tree in half seems like a deliberate choice. It looks like
I like it.
It's an idea you had to perfectly symmetrically slice that tree, and I really like that.
So Toby, go in with crop and just crop that post out, keeping the tree, you know, halfway slice. You probably have to come out of the mat. I mean, cutter mat out. There you go.
And Pam does have a mat there, which is one of our most popular tours on the Photo Enthusiast Network. If you'd like to put a mat on your image, which can really set it apart from some others, we should teach you how to do that.
And also, what Toby's done with this crop is it does. I mean, there's a lot of wire there now. You may need to go, you know, to a little different, more of maybe a 3:2 ratio, something like that isn't so wide. And but it'll keep it vertical, but you'll have kind of more symmetry between the posts. Yeah, there you go. So I like that a lot. And the other thing is you can see that the tone of the grass actually changes a little bit once you're on the left side of that fence. Obviously, from people kind of trampling on the grass, it turns it kind of brown on the right side. So you use that line there where the brighter green grass meets the brown grass as your leading line in the lower left corner. And then visually you travel through that fence line and into the tree. I really like this picture a lot here. And the other thing I'll say, Pam, I noticed you had a watermark down in there, and it's a beautiful signature. But those big signatures that it just, you can't see it in that grassy area. So what I would do is just create a mat around it, and then use that signature very small, kind of with black as the background. Just kind of put it down in the mat underneath the photograph. That way you're not taking away from the picture itself, and your name stands out a little bit more. And we've got some tutorials on how to do that. But it's a great picture, Pam. And I love the way she process this one. The tones and stuff are just great.
Yep. I'll just use this as an example. If you felt like you wanted to make this grass look more similar to the grass over here, that's another thing that would be great for the gradient tool. You can kind of drag up on the gradient tool over that area, and kind of cheapy, just kind of bring the temp down into the green realm of that, and it's just going to kind of match it up. But I liked how it was. I'm just using this as a teaching. I really like this image too, Pam. Nicely done. We don't have your metadata. We've cropped in a bunch, which you know, can hurt an image a little bit. The tree up here isn't quite as sharp as I would like. So again, think about that. Really carefully choose those depth of field that's going to give you maximum amount of foreground and to background depth in when you need it for your subject. Yeah. All right. Well, that was 3 great images submitted. If you want to see your image submitted here and you're not a Photo Enthusiast Network member, there's a fly in here. Before we come back on camera, we wanted to kill the fly. While you're distracted by this beautiful Pam print.
He hasn't shown up for a couple of weeks, I've noticed.
Well, no, that's hold on, let's stop sharing the screen so we're back on camera now.
Now they can't even see Archer because he's just sacked out.
He opened his eye.
Awake.
I know.
If you look at the other side, he looks asleep
I
still.
do wonder if anybody could hear him snoring. Yeah, there's Archie. He is arguably more famous than either of us, but we should put the googly eye on. I don't know where those are. If you would like to see your image here and hear feedback from us on what you can do in Lightroom, I'm a little biased, but I think what we do is really valuable. You can become a Photo Enthusiast Network member. Just a reminder that that price does increase at the end of this year. But if you get in now, you are grandfathered in as long as you're a member in good standing.
I was just looking at the comments here, and Heather had commented on Pam's image. I wonder what it would look like as a black and white. And I thought about that kind of as we got into it, and I made the comment that she processed it well, and she did. As a color photograph, it was processed extremely well, and it was absolutely gorgeous. But that would be one, Pam, that you may want to consider looking at as a black and white. You don't have to worry about the different tones of green in the grass, and you got the blue sky and all of that. You know, either way, I think it's a gorgeous image, but it would be cool to see it in a black and white too. So great suggestion, Heather.
Nice. Thank you, Heather. And again, I just want to thank the chat room for hanging out with us. I love, you know, I love their excitement about the snoring dog on your arm. It's just pretty cool how happy he is. He's a good dog.
Uncle Steve's in town.
Yeah.
All
right. So we're going to move into the section of the show we call Tech Barf, where Steve and I get to chit chat about some different tech news stories. Roy, thank you so much for collecting all of these. You can find all of these articles in much more depth than we're going to talk about them, especially the more we drink, at photorec.tv/MMH. That stands for Mishmash Highlights. So if you hear an interesting article, we got the source. Again, thanks, Roy, for putting those together. I just want to give it a shout out to Sony. This was broadcast out a day or two ago. Ended up in my inbox, a press release. The very first full Hollywood theatrical release film to be shot on a mirrorless camera, full frame mirrorless camera. That's the Sony a7S II. The film is called, let me share my screen with you. The film is called The Possession of Hannah Grace. Can you guess what kind of film it might be, Steve?
I'm guessing a thriller.
Yeah. Or
maybe a horror.
Horror.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't want to spend a whole lot of time talking about this other than I tried to watch a little bit of the trailer and I had to stop.
It freaked you out?
Super creepy. Super duper creepy.
Because it was shot on a mirrorless full frame?
Yes. No.
Oh, yeah.
No, not at all. Because
hey, you know, speaking of which, though, whatever happened to that Steven Soderbergh film that was all shot on an iPhone? Did that get released and then go straight to video or something? Because I was kind of excited to see that. I'm a huge Steven Soderbergh fan, and I thought it was really neat that he was doing that. Or has it just not come out yet? Do you remember that?
I remember that.
I'm going back probie a year ago.
Chat room, can you Google and tell us what's up with that? That was about a year ago.
Yeah. Because I don't know even what the subject of the film was, but I can tell you horror films are not my thing at all.
Yeah.
So I won't be watching this. I don't care what it was shot on. But that's just my own opinion.
Yeah. I do think it's fun. Let's look at a couple of pictures here. You know, the camera's basically unrecognizable in its cage with all of the bits and bots connected to it. So that's a shot. You can see the Sony mirrorless right there. It was, I don't know, this is the Hawk 65 lens is used. These are handmade, handcrafted lenses. They had 6 lenses on set during production, a 40, 2 40s, 2 60s, and 2 95s. Okay. I guess they have backups, and also they had separate Sonys mounted on them. But you can get into here. I mean, look, it looks like it's some gigantic broadcast camera, but really there is just a little Sony mirrorless in there with an adapter in that Hawk 65, which is an anamorphic lens, which in filmmaking terms does squish the lens, squish the viewing angle some. So it's just kind of neat to see a camera that, you know, could be one of ours used on a true feature length film.
Thank God for these people, because I seriously look at that and just think, man, the complications involved. Corey Rowe, who's a good friend of ours, and he's been a McKay client for a number of years now. We've traveled with him quite a bit. He produces and directs and makes films, and he's always sharing these Facebook photographs of these contraptions that he puts together with his 5D Mark IV and other cameras. And
yeah, that's true.
It's really incredible what these professionals can achieve.
Yeah, and
the look that they can get from all these all this equipment.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I'm excited for upcoming review that you all are going to see of the underwater housing that I've been. I don't want to use the word procrastinating. I'd rather use the word gathering data. I've been gathering lots of data, so my review is after months and months of use. And so I had to go swimming the other day. The water temperature was about 52 degrees.
Oh,
the
man, that is cold.
The air temperature was 50 degrees.
Although not as cold as our polar plunge.
No. What was the water temperature there?
I think when we did it in the Arctic, it was, what was it, like 37 or something like that. Yeah, I mean, it
didn't feel that cold.
It was cold. Antarctica was cold. I know you weren't there. You're going next month.
Yeah.
But Antarctica, when I did Antarctica, I want to say it was, I mean, it was basically freezing.
Yeah.
There were ice chunks all over the place.
Just a little, yeah, right around freezing.
But 52 is cold. I grew up surfing in 55 degrees in Santa Cruz, and that was cold. Lake Tahoe is about that temperature. I grew up water skiing on Lake Tahoe, and that 52 is, that's cold.
I didn't stay in long, but my point being, you know, talking cause, everything takes longer when we try to film a good review that has kind of some theatrical elements to it. You know, this angle, that take. And I'm like, this takes forever. And Kaz is like, well, if we were doing a feature-length film, just think of how much longer it would take. And I was like, you're just saying that because you get paid hourly. Oh, he's great to work with. So I'm excited for people to see that. I think the opening of that is going to be really fun.
Oh, he's going to be with us up in Alaska, too.
He is. That's right.
Going to be cool. He's Kaz, for those of you that don't know, Kaz has been working with Toby now for about the past year or so, since you, maybe longer than that. Since
about 2 years now.
And does incredible work, especially with film and editing. Just a really good guy. He joined us kind of as a guest instructor on our Southwest tour a couple months back. Did a great job. Clients really loved him. He fit in with the team well, and we're just excited to bring him out on some more tours. So looking forward to catching up with him tomorrow.
Yep, that's right. All right, let's move on and talk about some other stuff. I just saw this Photokina 2019 has been canceled. The now annual show will resume in 2020. Why was it canceled?
I didn't. I just saw the headline and did not dive into it.
Since it has been biannual, but they decided to move it to annual, and then they looked, I guess, at their schedule and the fact that all of a sudden moving from biannual to annual meant that it would be only, they're also moving it to May from September. That actually meant that it was only 7 months away. I guess they felt like that was a little too soon. So they've canceled the 2019 show and started the new schedule in 2020. I don't have a lot to say about this, but something that seems very unrelated, but I think is similar in a lot of ways is I think it's Sony is pulling out of E3 this year. So the biggest gaming convention, a huge player in the gaming world, is saying we're not going to attend. This is this kind of globalization and internetification of everything, where we all can get our news so easily without going anywhere. I've actually never been to Photokina. Many of my peers, bigger YouTubers, certainly have. I'm usually either traveling right before, during, or after, so it hasn't quite worked out. But I don't feel a huge pressure too, because I get the press releases, I get the press, and a lot of times I know I'm going to get the hands-on with the equipment in a better way soon after, and sometimes even before. You don't really get to use the gear hands-on when it's kind of tied down to the table there. If you have a relationship with some of the manufacturers, they'll let you maybe keep it overnight or walk away for a little while with it. But, you know, in general, I think these big kind of giant conventions that take up a lot of floor space are probably going to be less and less frequent in the future.
Yeah, it's never been a big pull for me, but you know, I've got the luxury of having you guys, you YouTubers out there going to these conventions, and I can just get the latest updates with a front row seat on my television, and I don't have to pay a bunch of money and fight a bunch of crowds to get there. It's never really been a big deal for me. But, you know, you look at like Apple pulled out of CES. I don't know if they ever did, or what they would have like I don't know, a show would go on during CES or something like that, or you go to CES and it's just all these Apple products and Apple isn't even there. So Sony pulling out of E3, they'll still get talked about. There'll still be you know, white elephant in the room that people will be chatting about. And yeah, if I'm running a company or I'm a big shareholder in a company, why do I want to go spend all this money on these big live conferences when I can just invest those funds in helping something go viral on the internet and get a lot more press or bang for the buck for it? So I like face-to-face stuff. I'm just that way, but the whole big show thing has never really been my thing.
Speaking of going viral on the internet, have you seen this low light photo test?
No.
Oh boy. All right. If you've had dinner recently, I'm sorry. If you're squeamish,
wait. We got Thai food being delivered probably right now as we speak.
I know. We're oh my gosh, it's already 6:53. We're gonna wrap this up any second now. No. If you're squeamish, look away for a minute. We'll let you know. I'll spoil it. It's a picture of somebody mid-vomit.
Oh, gosh.
And you said, why am I going to share this?
Oh,
well,
geez.
This poor dude was
oh gosh, look at, oh man, why? I'm drinking whiskey over here. This is bad.
Well, look, F-Stoppers covered it. Petapixel covered it. PhotoRec TV Mishmash, we're going to cover it too. Barf or no barf, that's how we roll. So Nick was out on the street testing the light performance of his new Nikon 7200 f2.8 lens. And he noticed the man walking away, and he thought it would be interesting to take a nice picture. It happened at that moment that another man walking towards him lost his cookies. Had a little upchuck incident. All right. So we're going to stop showing that.
Hey, do you remember Garbage Pail Kids?
Yes, I do.
You remember those?
Yes,
I'm sure people in the audience, some of you remember those.
Yeah,
so,
we just dated ourselves, but go ahead.
I know. I was a kid when those things came out, and I hunted everywhere to find the name Steve. You know, you wanted to find your own name on a Garbage Pail Kid and collect that card or whatever. And it finally came out, and it was Heavin' Steven. I was so disappointed. It was the most disgusting garbage pail. Not that they were all pretty gross.
Wasn't it the goal, though, to be the most gross?
Yeah. And I was like, I didn't even get the card. I was so disappointed. Plus, it was Steven, Steven. That's not how you spell my name. So anyway.
I don't think there was a Toby.
I don't know.
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Brian wants to know what kind of virtual mat goes well with vomit. And I want to.
I'll tell you which one goes well. Do that tutorial that David did where he incorporates like something from the photograph as a texture on your virtual mat, and use that one. Let us know how it goes. But share it privately to Superfan99 over here, because I don't want to see that crap.
And I just want to point out, Andrew, thanks for looking up. He found the Steven Soderbergh film. It was called where'd it go? We've scrolled too much talking. It was called Unsane, and it looked like it released direct to DVD back in 2018.
Huh.
You know, that's you know, I didn't bring the A7S II up to make it seem like a better camera or anything. It's just interesting to see these cameras that are available to us. This isn't a $60,000 or $160,000 camera. This is just a couple thousand, which is affordable to some people, being used on a feature film, which is kind of cool. And I also want to say this about my EOS R review. I'm not excited about it, but at the same time, I didn't mind shooting with that camera at all in Iceland. And if you are a good photographer or videographer, you can certainly make amazing content with that camera or any camera that's currently on the market. Yeah. Or is a couple of years old, really.
Oh,
so,
I've seen.
We're at the point where this gear is not holding us
back. You see some of these videos out there where professional photographers are given these little plastic crummy cameras, and they go out and they can make some amazing pictures. So we talk about equipment a lot. We've talked about this on the show before. We talk about equipment all the time and stuff, and it's easy to get excited and talk about the latest and greatest stuff or the pro gear that's coming out. But you can do some incredible stuff with basic camera equipment that's a few years old. Yeah, you get beyond that and you really start to get a lot of noisy pictures.
Yeah,
the digital world has gotten really good in the last few years, but if you go too far back, you really do notice a difference.
Yeah. I want to just point this article out. The Sony A7R III firmware 2.0 unlocks all the autofocus modes with adapted lenses. This came across my desk the other day, and I was like, oh, yeah, new firmware update. I'm always excited. This is the 3. I have my camera. The R3 is around here somewhere. I was like, let's go get it. And then I was like, wait a second, 2.0. That came out over a month ago. But DP Review apparently just talked about it recently. And so it's so interesting to see all petapixel, f-stoppers, all these places that live or die by you clicking through and reading articles are just republishing it, even though it has been out for over a month. And I put it on my camera a month ago, and I can't tell you whether or not I've noticed that it unlocks all the AF modes with third-party lenses. But I just know that I am very happy with my Sigma adapter and my 24-70, although now mostly, I don't know where I put that camera. I think over in that R3? Cabinet. The R3.
Yeah, it's right over there.
Yeah, okay, thanks, Steve.
I was rummaging through your stuff. It's always fun to come to Toby's house, let me tell you, because we come down here in his office. I'm like, oh, look at all this gear I get to look at. You always have new stuff and loaned equipment and just cool stuff to geek out on.
I'm pretty lucky. As I was talking to somebody on Instagram the other day, we were like, it's really cool. You get to try out all things, new things, shiny new things all the time. I was like, I do try to remind myself of that when I look at my bank account, because it's not pretty. No, let's move on. So it's just interesting to see that go around. I wanted to finish that saying, though, I've been mostly using the Tamron 28-75 and just really blown away by the value of that lens. Fantastic job, Tamron. And that kind of leads us into, I want to hit on this real quick. And again, photorec.tv/MMH for all of these articles. Sony says they could make f1.0 lenses, but won't because there's no market demand. Any thoughts on that, Steve?
No, not really. I mean, I get it. If you're going to have to charge a lot of money for a 1.0 lens, and you've got 1.2 out there. A lot of lenses are out there at 1.2, 1.4. And I understand that even that difference from 1.2 to 1, you still get a lot more light in there. But I don't know. Yeah. How many of those are you really going to sell? If you've got a 1.2, if you have a 50 millimeter 1.2 and you can come out with a 50 millimeter 1.0, how many of those 1.0s are you going to sell at that higher price point? Just for people to say that they've got the 1.0, you can still accomplish a lot with the 1.2, just as an example. Yeah. But
it just it doesn't feel like they're too practical. But I took the lenses off both of these to illustrate a point that a lot of people have bashed Sony for a while. And I think this Sony, was it a CEO that came out or just somebody at Sony said, and that is the size of the lens mount. Sony went with a fairly small lens mount for their full frame mirrorless. You can see that the sensor is just, the lens mount is just a little bit bigger. And whereas a Nikon, there's some extra space there. And so Nikon also, when they announced the Z6, Z7, they said, hey, we got an f1.0 lens coming. It's manual focus only, which you can already get that for Sony as well. But it is interesting. We may see a future where Nikon and Canon look a lot smarter for have gone with a much larger lens mount that may not limit as much as this. But I'm not worried about that. I think we're talking years off if it ever is a real issue. So we'll see. But that's what something people have talked about, and it is a conscious decision that Nikon and Canon have made. And you know, that's definitely one of the benefits of waiting out the game a little bit and kind of seeing how things shake out. So I thought that was interesting. And this looks super cute. We're not going to click on it though. You have to go look at it. Photographer documents mice living in his garden after constructing miniature homes and playgrounds for them. That's adorable. I hope he doesn't have any cats. Okay.
Oh, jeez.
Let's go through. We're moved into the section of the show called Neat Stuff. I think Roy just decided to call this section Neat Stuff at some point, or maybe I
don't know where the cutoff is between tech barf and neat stuff, because this is. But I'm a nerd, I guess, because I look at all those headlines. I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. That sounds cool. There's just not time to talk about all that stuff.
Yeah. Let's spend just a moment before we kind of start to wrap it up and talk about lens rental. Lens rental is, I think, the biggest U.S. camera rental house.
Yeah. And Lens Pro to Go recently merged with them. It's been a little while now, but that's just made them even bigger.
Yeah.
And they still operate under separate names, but it's the same company now.
Yeah. So they obviously have a lot of data about what people are renting from them. And of course, they can compare it from year to year. So this article is from DP Review via a blog post. I guess we could go right here, but we'll stay here because everything's right here. And interchangeable lens camera brands that have been rented over the last year. Canon still firmly in the lead at 41.57. Let's make that a little bigger for you folks.
Gosh, I love pie charts.
Do you?
Makes me hungry.
Yeah. We do have a quiche upstairs.
I know.
Sony followed up with a 26%. It's firmly in second place. And then followed by Nikon at 15, Panasonic, which is all GH5 stuff, I'm betting. And then Fuji, Leica, Olympus, Pentax, and hey, you got Hasselblad on the list.
Oh, look at it. It's so far down. They couldn't even finish the font. It's Hasselblad.
Hasselblad.
Jeez.
So that's that little teeny slice of the pie right there. But
to be honest with you, I didn't even know that Lens Rentals had Hasselblad equipment. I guess it makes sense. You know, they probably, I'm actually surprised. When I worked at Sammy's Camera, we used to rent out phase 1 cameras. I mean, we had $60,000 camera bodies that we would rent out to people.
Yeah.
But, you know, as far as the market share, it was pretty small.
I believe top interchangeable lens camera brands, I'm assuming this is including bodies and lenses together. I could be wrong.
Yeah, probably. I would think so.
Okay. And break it down into cameras, specifically 5D Mark IV, 5D Mark III, take the top 2 spots, then followed by the Sony a7S II, a7 III, and the Panasonic GH5 rounding out the top 5. Sony a7 III is the only new camera to make it into the top 5, which is very interesting. We'll go look in a minute at costs. Steve and I were interested. What does it cost to rent some of this stuff, and how does that factor in? Because one of the other things that we found was interesting is that Sigma and Tamron have really started to make it up on this list. And if we look down here, they mentioned Sigma and Tamron saw a slow but steady increase in popularity over this past year. And, you know, it's something we've talked about. We actually talked about with Paul, who the CEO of Lens Rental. I don't know if you remember ways back, I asked him not too long after some of the art lenses had been out and people had been talking very positively about them. I said, you know, how well do these rent? And he said, you know, they really still don't rent that well because people who own a Canon and a Nikon and a Sony almost always go and rent the Canon and Nikon Sony lens. If they're going to do that, they're going to rent. But now not only have these lenses come onto the market and been repeatedly reviewed very positively, as we were looking at lens rental, oh no, it's right here.
Well, my question when we were looking at this, my question was, let's look at the pricing, because if the prices are similar or there's just a very small difference between the Canon lens versus the Sigma lens, then that really speaks volumes about the third-party manufacturer. But what we found, and I don't mean to take away from the quality of what the third-party manufacturers like Sigma and Tamron are doing now, is that there is a considerable price reduction when you go to a third-party lens, and it's almost 50%. So that does really kind of lend itself to why more people are getting that. Plus, you know, Sigma, Tamron, these third-party lenses, they're getting a lot of airplay now. YouTubers are talking about them all over the place. You know, just communities like the Photo Enthusiast Network, we're recommending them, and they're really, really great lenses, and people are saving money.
Yeah.
It used to be that you had these kit lenses or these real plasticky, cheap things, and then you saved all your money and you bought the L glass or you bought the professional series lenses, and they were a lot more, but that's what you were getting. Well, now you've got manufacturers coming to the table with quality that's as good almost as the first party manufacturers at a much reduced price. And anyway, the same thing in the rental market.
Yeah.
You get a great lens, but you pay half the price. So no surprise that the market share is increasing there.
Yeah. There is an interesting comment from somebody down below that article that said, you know, the Nikon D850 really kind of blows the 5D Mark IV out of the water in almost all respects. Maybe not blows it out of the water, beats it in almost all. Why isn't it rented at any level? And I'll tell you why. I think lens rentals, bread and butter, is your wedding photographer who, you know, needs a second body as a backup, or is building their business, and why they're building it, can afford to rent because they can build that cost in, but can't outlay the cash to buy. And that is still firmly owned by Canon. Your wedding photographer, sure, there are Nikon wedding photographers, absolutely, and the gear can absolutely do it, and yes, better in a lot of cases. But one thing, the D850, that higher megapixels, that's actually not that well suited to weddings. If you shoot 5,000 pictures for a long wedding and you come home and you're dealing with what, 46, 42 megapixel files versus 24 megapixels, that's a huge amount of data to crunch. And we talk about Lightroom being a little bit of a pig and slow sometimes. So, you know, that's I think is happening there. Those people who want the 850 are your landscape photographers, your photographers that are out there and they're buying it. I
mean, you're kind of getting into that 5DS realm with the D850. And yeah, I would agree. It's a much better camera than the 5D Mark IV still to still. But it also came out a couple years after the 5D Mark IV did. But a better comparison is to the 5DS and 5DS R, where you get into these 50 megapixel files. And you don't see that anywhere in the top 10. So, yeah, I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah. Jamie Morgan wants to know when Tamron's going to do some more E-mount stuff, like 150 to 600. I was just raving about 28 to 75. They say they are coming with more E-mount glass. It would be nice to see more native mounts. You know, it's funny. I got here a Sigma and a Nikon mount and a Sony mount. And, you know, I love these Sigma lenses, but really all they've done is kind of built an adapter in. That's all they've done.
The problem with this is it's elongated the lens. It's not like it's any smaller or anything. It's actually just become a larger lens than it was before to accommodate the smaller opening.
Yeah.
I mean, they've done a great job. And, of course, you want it to be native so you don't have to use adapters and stuff. But yeah, anyway.
Yeah. I'm excited about shooting this lens. Really hoping we get good weather and good aurora. 20 millimeters f1.4. So wide, so fast. But then you look at, oh, it's right here. This is a fixed lens hood and a bulbous front element on this 21.4. Then we've got Sony's 24-1.4 that was just named as the prime lens of the year by DP Review. And I'm just really impressed.
That thing is tiny and it's light.
Yeah.
And I believe you said it is weather sealed.
Yep. Yeah.
That's
manual aperture control with click or declick. Yeah, I'm excited about this too. Not as wide, 4 millimeters of difference, which at that wide can make a pretty significant difference in field of view, about 12 degrees or so. I'm excited to try out both of those lenses, but not everybody buys a mirrorless to go lighter, but a lot of you watching this show and who talk to me, you do, and I did. It was a factor in my decision. So I am enjoying Sony and their focus on light lenses whenever they can.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. All right. I think we got a few questions. So let's move on to photos from space.
There's Major Tom.
Oh, yeah, he is over here.
Taking a nap.
Yeah, he's taking a nap over there. And you just wave them around a minute. This is that portion of the show where I think it's Caleb's fault. I mean, it was Caleb's initiative at some point to say, hey, we should do this more often. And well, first off, so my son was here the other day on Monday when SpaceX launched. I don't know if you caught that. SpaceX launched on Monday. It was the third time they used this Falcon 9 heavy booster, a heavy rocket. Pretty impressive to put a rocket up for the third time in a row. And it launched 64 little microsatellites. So that was pretty cool to watch that live. We just happened to be like, oh, hey, it's time, and turned on the YouTube live, and there it was. So that was neat. But we've got NASA's OSIRIS-REx arrives at the Bennu asteroid, and we got a big ad on screen, and sends back fly-in images. So this looks kind of like an old piece of dog food.
And you would know. I remember the day where Toby put a video out of him actually eating human food grade dog food.
It was an artisanal dog treat.
And what I remember from that is it was insanely dry, right?
It was the driest thing I've ever put in my mouth. Yep, it was. All right, now we're losing viewers, but we've got this giant space rock. It's kind of neat looking. It's hard. I really wish, if we were critiquing this, I really wish they'd somehow given us a sense of scale.
I know. That's exactly what I was like. I wish they put a quarter on the screen or something.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, a little ruler. Throw a ruler down there. Get an astronaut. Something like that. What was the other one? Mark your calendars. This is more useful. So let's just say real quick, we've got super blood moon in North and South America. At this point, the full moon will be about 14% larger and 30% brighter because it's going to be at its perigee. That is when it's closest to us. And that is on January 20th. North and South America, Greenland and Iceland will be treated to a total lunar eclipse. In New York City, it'll last 5 hours of moon up. I don't know. Duration of totality will be an hour. Wow. Oh, so 5 hours of eclipse time. So from the moment that the Earth starts to eclipse the moon to when it's completely done will be a total of 5 hours. San Francisco, 5 hours as well. So that's pretty cool. Keep that in mind for, what's the date? January 20th. I will be in Buenos Aires.
Oh, yeah. You're doing your pre-extension for the Antarctica trip.
That is right.
In Buenos Aires.
Yep. Huh. So I'm excited about that. All right. Couple of quick questions. Heather's got a question. She remembers me having some issues with my A7R2 in the cold weather. Yes, Heather. What I had was the shutter mechanism oil stuff seemed to get a little dirty. Some foreign objects must have got in it. And as it got really cold, the shutter mechanism couldn't power through that dirty oil, and it just would seize up, closed.
Interesting. I never heard the answer as to why, as to what happened, because I was with you when that was occurring.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that's why. Interesting.
Yeah. Commanders. I don't think that's regulation. He's gonna get a call from NASA.
Well, no, Jamie already commented on this. She said that's not sharing because my glass is empty, which it is. He's just kind of exploring here. He's wondering where the whiskey went.
So so Heather, that should have been that's not common. That is a freak accident.
Well, and I think the other thing with not just that camera, any camera that you use in these cold environments is battery life. You have to be very conscious about how you're handling your battery. So if you go inside to a warmer area, leave your camera outside. We've talked about this before in these, because when you're outside and it's really cold, it's really dry. And the last thing you want to do is take that dry, cold piece of technical equipment into a warm, humid environment because the iciness just starts to melt and it gets all the internals wet. So you simply pop your battery out, keep that close to your body, go inside, warm up. That'll help your battery last longer. But besides that one kind of freakish issue that you had, you've never really had problems with the A7, certainly not the A7R3, but I don't remember you having many issues with the A7R2.
No. No, it should be fine if everything is working correctly.
Just order a couple extra batteries.
Yeah. And did you mention condensation? Were you saying that?
Yeah.
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 Okay.
We're talking about that.
Yeah.
But I think with the A7R3, you did end up getting better battery life than the A7R2. That was an improvement that they made, right?
Mm-hmm.
But God, compared to that dang Hasselblad, buying extra batteries is a bargain.
Yeah.
So just get a couple extra batteries for your R2. And I'm a guy that, since we're on the subject of batteries, I only buy branded batteries. If I shoot Sony, I buy Sony batteries. If I shoot Canon, I buy Canon batteries. I've just been on too many tours where I've seen issues with third-party batteries. Yeah. I don't know if you feel the same, but
I do these days.
Yeah.
I've dabbled in the third-party battery arena, and it's never...
The quality control just doesn't seem to be there.
Yeah.
You got these things that are just being cranked off an assembly line in China or Korea or somewhere, and it's just the quality control isn't there. And it's a battery, you know, it's critical to what you're doing, and it's not that expensive.
And I know you can look and say, oh, I could buy 4 of these for the price, but honestly, in a lot of cases, it takes 4 of them to equal 1. Mm-hmm. So do you want to be dealing and charging with 4 crappy batteries, or do you just want to have one good one that you know is going to last and be genuine?
Yeah,
it's worth it to spend the more money. I agree. Yep. All right. And she just mentions that she liked the A7 II so much she's switching it out for the A7R2 with that extra megapixels. Move. Really nice.
Yeah, that's a good
camera.
Move.
Andrew's buying that new Sigma 18-35, which is on super sale today at B&H for like a couple more hours. That's the lowest price by far it's ever been.
Yeah,
it's a great lens. 18-35 f1.8. Love it. So sharp. He wants some brand recommendations for filters on it. I think you actually already answered him in the forum.
Well, I was chatting with him on Facebook a little bit about this, and I'm stoked to see that he's getting this lens. He and I have exchanged a couple messages about wide angles and stuff, and I think this is a really great choice, Andrew, especially bang for the buck. This is a excellent way to go with the sale that was going on today. As far as filters, what I had said to him is I don't use a lot of filters. I do my work post production, but I do carry ND filters. I use like a 6-stop or 9-stop, and you know, I mean, I don't know. I just don't want to put extra pieces of glass in front of a lens unless I absolutely need it for the shot that I want to get. I know people feel differently. I think if I was really wanting to invest in a filter system, I'd get the Breakthrough, those magnetic filters. I think those are really slick and cool, but they're expensive. They're really expensive. And so for now, I just do a lot of that in post-production. But I told him that he should probably kind of defer to you because you've tested a lot of different systems. I know you've used the Nissi system for quite a while now, and you seem to really like that.
Nissi's good, but you know, as we talked about on the show, I am struggling to find spots where I really like using or feel like I need to use the graduated filters, the square. And if you're not using those, the system's overkill. And that Breakthrough filter has been working really well, and it's a little bit simpler.
Now, part of the reason the Breakthrough is expensive, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, the adapter ring to put it on your lens is not expensive. It's the fact that the filter combines a polarizer and an ND filter in one.
Yeah, it can.
Right.
Yeah. Or you need to do that if you want, because it's not easy to stack unless you go to a square system, what they also offer. So, but you know, for just throwing on an ND or a circular polarizer, just buying a single lens is good. If you want to get a little fancier, the Breakthrough. If you want to get a lot fancier, the Nissi.
Yeah.
Yeah. And brands, sorry, I was looking at a couple of different things. So I don't know if you said brands like Hoya. Solid.
I did not, no.
Yeah, Hoya, B+W. Those are 2 great brands. If you're on a budget, Tiffin isn't bad. It really depends on what kind of filter. Some ND filters from cheaper brands have terrible color cast. And circular polarizers, however, though, you know, you can buy a cheap one and it's not too bad.
Yeah, I'm just... not very experienced with them.
And Brian points out, you know, that third-party batteries aren't great, but sometimes those third-party battery chargers are, which I agree, especially the ones that allow you to charge USB. I highly recommend, if it's got decent reviews, a third-party charger as having a backup charger and or one that allows you to charge over USB, which is a nice perk.
Yeah, for sure.
Just Kyle has a question, and I don't know the answer to it. He is trying to... he's got a radial gradient that he applied in Camera Raw and Photoshop, and he wants to sync that across 4 images. but it did not. Sorry, it said it's kept the settings, but not the size, placement, or rotation of the radial graduated filter. Any idea what caused the mismatch?
Here, go to Lightroom for a second.
Well, he's asking in Photoshop.
Oh, in Photoshop.
Yeah, in Photoshop's Camera Raw module. I actually don't even know how to.
I've never tried to synchronize
filter
edits from Camera Raw.
I know you all can't see this right now, but let me just think for a minute. How do you have more than one image open? I feel dumb. I do this in Lightroom. It would work in Lightroom
here too. I don't know, Kyle. Good question. Thank you for that.
Sounds like a bug,
but
I mean, sounds like a bug.
Look into that one.
Because how can you? Could you select more than one if you're in Bridge? Is that how? Yeah. Sorry, Kyle. I'll poke a little bit.
We can ask Dave and Allie. We're going to see them tomorrow when we get up to Alaska, and they've been using Photoshop forever. So, but I don't. You know, they don't. I know the way Dave edits. Every photo is unique, and that's actually the way that I edit. I don't copy things over to other photographs unless I'm just shooting unless it's some of my real estate stuff. I guess I do for exposure, but anyway, we'll run that question by him and see if there's an answer.
Kyle says you open them from Bridge, which I thought. Kyle, I'm sorry, I don't even actually have Bridge installed on this machine, so that does sound wonky and bug-like, and maybe we'll check that out when we get a chance. Yeah,
it may just be as simple as the fact that Bridge is kind of your organizational opening tool, and then Camera Raw is an editing tool, and they operate independently of each other, where Lightroom is kind of all encompassed. But also, don't forget that Lightroom, the way it processes the edits is very different than the way Photoshop does. Photoshop is actually manipulating the pixels and changing that image, where Lightroom is just a set of instructions laid over that raw image that's non-destructive. So that could have something to do with it too. The fact that Photoshop is actually doing manipulation to the images. There may not be a way to synchronize it over. So sorry, Kyle, wish we had a better answer for you, but we'll certainly look into it.
Well, we have to end on a sad note because Kyle stumped us. But it is time to wrap up this show.
It's good to be stumped every so often.
You're out of whiskey.
I'm out of whiskey. Oh, by the way, I forgot to mention this. This shot glass is a little 24-105 f4 Canon L lens.
Yes,
I had to bring this down here and show it
because it was in my cabinet.
It was cute. I said,
hold it back. Hold it back closer to your furry face so it's in focus. There you go. Man, your ears are big.
I know.
No, they are.
Ears and nose, they never stop growing, man. Wait till I'm an old man.
No. All right. Hey, thanks everybody for hanging out with us on this Tuesday evening in a slightly different time than normal. Steve, thank you for hanging out.
Oh, I'm excited, man. It's great to be here. Super excited. We didn't mention this earlier, but I think this was confirmed, but we've got Penn member Timmy and his wife are stopping by, so I'm excited to catch up with him. Yeah. And next time I come to the Seattle area, we'll just get a whole group of people together.
It would be great. I'd love to do more workshops and walkarounds here. Hey, that reminds me, I haven't released it to the public yet. It's only been out to the pre-list, and I think there's only 1, maybe 2 spots left for my super small group Mount Rainier National Park tour, which is happening in early July, I think. I should know, shouldn't I? And it should be a fantastic experience. I'm really excited about taking people to what I consider my backyard. I'm pretty sure you can find all the information you need to at photorec.tv/mtrainier. Just send me an email and say, hey, I want to take a look at that, and I'll send you the link so you can look. I'm going to release it to the whole public, and it will sell out pretty quickly. Yeah. So take advantage if you are interested in doing that.
And that's right. We just sent out the monthly wrap up for November to all of you guys on email. And one of the things that we did draw attention to is that in 2019, all the McKay tours are going to be offered to Penn members first. So you guys will all get a first crack at securing a spot on a tour. And for any of you that have been on tours or follow what the McKays are doing and what we're doing on tours with them, know that these things sell out immediately.
They really do.
And in fact, we just got a group me earlier today about some destinations, some new destinations that David's going to put on the calendar for 2020, in addition to a couple of them that we highlighted in the email. And let me tell you, they're super exciting. And it's 2020. He does payments and stuff. So
Yeah.
if he's a reasonable guy, he'll work with you. But you guys, pen members, get the first shot at these trips because we really want to get you guys out there as much as possible, or give you the most benefits that we can.
Sounds good.
Yep.
All right, everybody, thank you so much for hanging out with us. If you're going to build a website, go to squarespace.com/photorectv. If you're not already a photo enthusiast member and you're watching this, join before the end of the year. photorec.tv/join or photoenthusiastnetwork.com. That will get you there.
Major Tom's told me we got to go upstairs, eat some Thai food, and refill the whiskey. Stay classy, San Diego.
Bye-bye, everybody. Do we have to pay them now? We said that?